Hello and welcome to Property Matters. I'm Priyanka Rachaya. In today's episode, we will discuss the recent Karnataka government's proposal to legalize illegal structures in the city. So here, illegal structures, we are talking about over 35,000 illegal structures. So what kind of impact might it have on the infrastructure of the city later? And to discuss this topic, I have with me esteemed panelists, Justice M.S. Sarjana, who is the former judge of Bombay High Court, Mr. S.B. Honnur, former director of Karnataka Planning Authority, and Mr. Mukunda, who is the founder president of Citizens Action Forum. So I welcome you all to the show, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So to start with, we are talking about legalizing unauthorized structures or illegal structures. So when we talk about illegal structures, what sort of illegality are we talking about here? Mr. Honu, sir, would you be able to talk about it?
Yeah, good morning to all of you. The process of
Good morning.
urbanization has always, has the concept of unauthorized or illegal properties within urban areas. And this particular concept of regularization of unauthorized constructions has been on in the government of Karnataka since from 1991 and then 2007 and thereon 11, 12 and 13 and now they are talking another concept of regularization of unauthorized properties within Bangalore corporation limits. But I would like to emphasize that the construction of illegal properties within the BBMP limit has to be within the framework of Karnataka Corporation Act, Karnataka Town and Country Planning Act, and then Municipalities Act. And even sometimes, we have to have the Revenue Act also. But now, I don't know what is happening in the government now. If they are thinking of regularizing the properties within the corporation, legal frame, I think it is going to be very, very much suicidal. Therefore, one has to think that from all the perspectives, a comprehensive approach to this particular concept of legalization or regularization of properties within the urban areas.
Mukunda, sir, would you be able to throw light on this? You have been fighting for it since the past 10 years.
Yeah, we are the petitioners in the Supreme Court also now. We started from the lowest court here. For the past 8 years, we have been fighting this. The problem that we are facing with the government is that they are not coming out with a long-term permanent solution for this. Their approach has been ad hoc. Right now, their intention is to see that they raise money because of this COVID-19 issue, which is a genuine issue. I understand because of that there is a lot of financial constraints on the government, but that doesn't mean that you can go on regularizing illegal things without a proper framework. This is
So,
what
so
we have
when you
been
talk
asking.
about
Sorry.
illegal structures, what sort of illegalities? Can you spell out a few of them?
Mostly the illegalities are the inability or people have not followed the setback rules and the FSA, the floor space area ratio rule. These are the major ones. There are other things also, but they are comparatively they are minor. The major things are these. Because of this, you see buildings abutting each other without leaving any space for the flow.
You will find that these structures have virtually encroached on the public roads. Number one. Number
True.
two is number two is that the number of floors, there has been flagrant breach. You see, if it is just a marginal issue, it's not the matter. The sanction is for, as was rightly pointed out by Mr. Mukunda, you take the permission permits you or the FSI route or the limitations permit you 2 floors and you construct 8 and 10 and things like that. And then you see the basic bar is this, Priyanka, that again and again and again the Karnataka government has been doing this. And I pointed out in at least 6 of my judgments that there is a very clear, simple principle in law that You cannot do something indirectly which the law prohibits directly. Now, where the law says that you cannot overbuild, where the law says don't build on roads, where the law says don't convert all the basements into commercial areas, where the law says that you have got to respect the light and air rules, etc., etc. Every single rule has been breached, and the whole racket is, so it's all very well to turn around and say that you need money to fight COVID, but then you'll have to find the money from some other means. You can't use illegal methods. You can't convert. As it is, the city is being devastated, absolutely devastated. And
True, sir.
in a background like this, I don't think there's any justification. There's a legal bar. There's no moral justification for it, and you just turn around and say that I will legalize every other illegality. For that matter, tomorrow they will say that we are going to let out the criminals from the jails if they are willing to pay money. Is that going to be done?
True, true. Honor, sir, you had some point to make.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we are talking about what are the illegal structures or illegal properties. One is you can classify it as illegal sites, which are basically revenue sites, not got
That's
approval
when
from
A Khata and B Khata, what we talk about.
yeah under the Revenue Act. No conversion is there, and no approval under the Town and Country Planning Act. These are all sites, properties which are classified as illegal properties. And then we have building. So in building we have approved and violated, unapproved and violated, and there are there are all violated. This kind of things. Both way, like in revenue sites, neither they have got the permission under Town and Country Planning Act, nor permission from the municipal authorities. So all these, a variety of illegal, properties, they are mushrooming in Bangalore and continue to, increase also. If the government is trying to do it, once in a time, I think many governments have, tried to do this particular regularization, and it's only one time, opportunity is given to the people. But unfortunately, I think Mr. Mukunda knows that it is being stayed in the High Court, and that's all. And Hyderabad and other state governments have already done it in a different way. But now, if the government is, no, I have heard that the government is trying to regularize within the framework of Corporation Act. I don't know whether it is right or wrong. We have to see. It has to be done within the framework of Corporation, Town and Country Planning Act, and Revenue Act. So all these three acts will have to be integrated, and a comprehensive approach will have to be, come out with. But after all, the regularization of unauthorized construction is, of course, is not, in the right perspective. I think with this, I will, come back to you.
Okay. So here we are talking about 5% deviation in terms of illegal structures. But is it really limited to 5%? How many structures? Like, because if we see there are deviation is beyond 5%. What do you have to say about it?
What we have is we have the concept of master plan for every urban areas prepared under the Town and Country Planning Act, wherein we have zonal regulations for sites and regulations for buildings also, wherein 5% under Municipal Corporation Act, 5% of the violations are allowed to be regularized. But now the thing is, now they have been regularizing within the framework of 5%. Already they have been doing it. But now I think you will not find any buildings in Bangalore which are violated less than 5%. They are all more than 25, 30, 50, even sometimes 100 times also. So this being the scenarios, we have to think. Now we had an opportunity to have a survey in a couple of parts in Bangalore when this particular rules were being framed at that. When I was in power. So what we found was within a particular ward, we could find that none of the buildings are eligible within the framework of the our regularization rules. So therefore, this particular concept is, it is not covering the 90%, 80% of the illegal properties. So this
No.
is how things are happening. Now
No.
we had it allowed it 25% for residential areas. 25% for on commercial areas, and then 50% violations for commercial areas. So these are certain things which have been stipulated within those rules. I think that was a thing which has been challenged in the High Court and still it is pending.
Mukunda, sir, your comments on this?
See, the problem is, though the government every time claims it to be a one-off scheme, this has been the third time that they have been doing this. So obviously, it is a self-contradicting statement, number one. Number two, this so-called 25% and 50%, 25% in the case of commercial properties and 50% in the case of residential properties, who is going to determine this percentage and what is the modality? They have not specified. And they have not specified what will happen to properties which have exceeded this 25% and 50% limitation. And more importantly, to stop further things happening, this violations happening, they have to have a strict implementation protocol already on ground, which is not being done. And finally, even though I'm telling it in the last, it is not definitely the least important thing. Finally, what is it that the government is going to do for those officers in the engineering department and revenue department to allow this to happen? Why I am stressing on this is, just imagine, Priyanka, if in an area, in a locality, in a assembly constituency, there is an executive engineer, there are 3-4 executive engineers in an assembly constituency. If these people have allowed hundreds of buildings to violate, what is the kind of money that they have looted from the exchequer? So unless the government comes out with a comprehensive one-time solution framework for this and present it to the court, we can really applicable. So you can't go on demolishing 90% of the buildings in Bangalore city. It is impossible. At the same time, you can't go on allowing this kind of blatant violation of bylaws, and then build a building according to the whim and fancy. This actually not only spoils the environment in the government, in the city, but also encourages willful violation of bylaws, and it disincentivizes the actual honest person who builds according to the bylaws. This is not an act of good governance.
Yes,
this
sir.
is the problem.
Taking clue on that. Yes, sir. Taking clue on that, Saldana, sir, would you be able to comment on this? Like, what kind of impact will this have on the psyche of citizens who are in?
Yes. I'll just give you one concrete example, taking on from where Mr. Mukunda was telling us. There is a huge illegal structure which is being constructed in the plot next to where I live, and the citizens of the area, they went to the High Court. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to have to say this, but the Chief Justice threw out the petition saying that we are busy with our own litigation, we have no time to look into this. Then they went to the Lokayukta. The Lokayukta took up the matter. And I'll summarize by just saying this, that the Lokayukta ordered the corporation to submit to him the measurements, because there is a gross FSI violation in this case, 9 times the permissible FSI, 900% breach had been used. And secondly, it is a small road, and the law is that you cannot construct more than 1+1, having regard to the width of that road. It may be just paralyze the whole area, and these people have constructed 5 floors. So the Lokayukta asked for a report from the corporation. Can you believe it? It took 3 months, and then they submitted a 20-page report in which every letter and syllable was false. And
Okay.
they told the Lokayukta that the breach was marginal, it is not even hardly 1 or 2%. And the Lokayukta turned around and said that, look, I can't, we begged of the Lokayukta, we said, please appoint a panel, we will get independent architects and engineers, we'll give you an independent, but the Lokayukta said no. Now, what is the sort of impact that all this is happening? The citizens are frustrated, absolutely frustrated. Now, because of that order, an even bigger project is coming up now next to it. So, my view of the matter is very simple. The Supreme Court was very firm in the case of Kerala. The whole country knows that hardly 3 or 4 months back, under the orders of the Supreme Court, two 20-story skyscrapers in Cochin were demolished. They were demolished. And the feedback that we get is that every single illegal activity in the whole of Kerala is stopped after that. We'll have to make an example. Because the people who do these things, the so-called builders and developers, they put up the structure and disappear. And then all sorts of things. I remember when I was in the judge of the Karnataka High Court, the whole lot of petitioners came forward and said that the basements of all the commercial buildings have been sold to us. Some of them were doctors, some were dentists, some were small little restaurants, some of them were tailors, various other people. They said we paid our hard-earned money, and then when we checked up, we found that false sanctioned plans had been given by the officers. When the officers were questioned, they said that the corporators and the MLAs and the ministers, they said there's a long channel and they make the money and we are ordered to do these things. So my view of the matter is that there cannot be any let-up. Now what Mr. Punda is talking about is the practicality. I agree with him. But then we've got to start somewhere. I had in one of my judgments, Priyanka, I had advocated that in cases where there are gross violations, what should be done is that you see the structure becomes illegal, and since it is illegal, instead of demolishing it in those of the cases where it is slightly curable, you confiscate the building. The government requires, public authorities require structures. You confiscate the building, and if this is done once or twice, I tell you all this mischief will stop. But if you go on, now there is a premium. Today there is a premium. You go to the politician, pay him money, and then once it's Akrama, once it's some other name. But the point is that what are you doing? You are making money out of illegality. And on that, there can be no compromise. Now look at the environmental impact, Priyanka. I live in Bangalore. Most of the time I live in Bangalore. It was a beautiful city. Now thanks to what these people have done, if it rains for 10 minutes, the Bangalore starts getting flooded like happened in Bombay.
True.
This is immediate impact. Apart from the other things.
True.
The environment has been devastated.
True, sir.
I think
Taking clue on that, Honur sir, would you be able to throw some light on what kind of impact will this regularization of illegal structures have on the city infrastructure?
well,
Yes.
Yes, sir, Saldana sir, you want to make some point?
no, I'll just summarize it by saying that it will destroy them.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Honur sir, yes, sir.
The word in Kannada.
Okay. Yes, sir. Honur sir.
Yeah. This particular, we all know that illegal constructions are there in each and every urban areas. They have been impacting the infrastructure at different levels. I think I can take one example of the regularization of the FAR violations. These FAR regulations have been framed based on the road width of a particular locality. So why we do that one? The road width and the existing building with certain number of floors, which means the number of people, I mean families which are going to stay in that one, if the unauthorized floors like 3 floors or 4 floors or 5 floors are being added without any permission, what does it mean? That means you are adding more number of families in the same property and putting pressure on road, pressure on infrastructure, pressure on electricity and each and every basic facilities. This is how it is going to be, impact the urban areas. And the other things is the basic facilities like road construction, water supply and other things. They are there in basically it will impact the peri-urban areas wherein I think most of these violations are rampant, and one has to be realistic while looking at these properties, while regularizing it. We all know that the unauthorized construction they are there, they have been there for the many times. Once we decide that these properties are to be regularized, for a particular one-time solution. But what happens, if this particular regularization is completed? Then what happens? The scenario will continue to happen because of this. I think I will have to give the importance to the democratic setup of the Indian government. Indian system, and then people are not afraid of the laws. People are not fear and then respect the laws and other things. And the enforcement authorities are very weak. So these are all certain things which ultimately result into many unauthorized constructions and other things. So we have to have this kind of integrated approach or a comprehensive approach while tackling this particular thing. Otherwise, what happens is today you continue with the regularization rules. You complete that particular project. Again, next day, then again it will complete. Continue to happen. I think this is not acceptable. So we have to have strict enforcement of laws. Otherwise, it will be very much suicidal. This kind of there's no meaning for that kind of regularization concepts and other things. Of course, the government is trying to mobilize certain resources, but at the cost of people, and at the cost of infrastructure, at the cost of environment, at the cost of urban areas. What ultimately it will lead to many other impact, which is very much, very difficult to assess, in near term. Priyanka, back to you.
Yes, sir. So can we, Saldana, sir, you were talking about the impact on environment. Can you throw some light on it?
Well, Priyanka, I'll just start by telling
I'm not listening to Mr. Saldana's voice.
So a bit of technicalities. Saldana, sir, you can continue.
Yes. Priyanka, I'll just tell you one thing. Bangalore city holds the world record for having a lake in that city which has been fuming for the last 9 years because of toxic waste being let into that sewage and all sorts of industrial waste, all sorts of things are going into that lake. And the Green Tribunal passed some order. The corporation has done nothing. And this has now become a showpiece. People who come to Bangalore, they go there to see this huge lake frothing. Now, this is a serious price you're going to pay because people are going to start dying. As it is, all the fish in that lake have died. But this is one. The other part of it, I told you that the now I'm very ingratiated to Anup Saab because he has rightly summarized on the impact on various facilities. Take for instance the water supply. If you go and over congest an area, it is impossible. That has happened even in Bombay. It is impossible to go and supply water to all the residents. and then there's going to be hell, absolute hell. The third part of it, I remember in my Bangalore days in the beginning, we found that the sewage was overflowing on almost every road. For instance, to set up the sewage treatment plant in Cubbon Park, in order to save the plant, because the sewage was overflowing. In spite of all the best efforts of the PWSSB, they said we just can't cope with this pressure. Now this is what happens when the do you want I mean this COVID is bad enough. You want epidemics to break out and you want the whole of Bangalore to die. And this is these are the short-term short-term measures that these politicians proposed. Now I want to ask two questions. One is it was rightly been pointed out by Mr. Mukunda and by Mr. Shankarpa that all these infringements are traceable to two categories of people. One of them is the politician. The second one is the corrupt officers who allow this and those who join hands with them. Now, it is not difficult. It's not difficult to identify who these people are. And the question I'm asking is, in the last 20, 30, 40 years where this problem has been rampant, not only in Bangalore but all over the country, has a single inquiry been held? Has a single corrupt, it's not difficult. I can tell you there's a building next to where I stay, which is again 100% illegal on the other side. And the citizens made a noise about it. So some stay order was passed. But then these people went to the local politicians and they told me that they spent 10 crores of rupees and the stay has been vacated. Now, it's not difficult to identify who the people are. It's not difficult at all. Why can't the law enforcement authorities, why can't the courts order that you have an inquiry in the case of each of these illegalities as to who it is easily traceable. They are so-called builders, developers, and then these officials. I know in one case where I asked a retired gentleman who had constructed an illegal floor. I said, you held a good position in government, you're a senior citizen. Why did you go and do this? And he told me, sir, they would not pass my plans. Because they said that you construct an illegal floor, we will market it, you get 1 crore of rupees extra, give that to us. And that was the reason why this was done. Now, is it difficult to trace these people? It's difficult to take action. You don't have to prosecute the whole country. Just pick up a few people and make an example of them. I tell you one thing, that I was a lawyer in Bombay for 40 years. After that, I was judge of the Bombay High Court for 4 years. And about 30 years back, there's a huge illegal building. The whole of Bombay knows the name of it, in which the court directed that 10 floors had to be demolished. And through various monkey tricks that were used through the courts and outside, this building is still standing because there are multi-millionaires living in this building. Now this will have to be stopped. I congratulate our Supreme Court for the order passed, but there's a lot of debate as to how can you demolish 2 20-stories, and those are 5-star apartments in Kerala. But they do it in the US, they do it in other countries, they did it here, and the whole state has been cleaned up thanks to that one order. So that's the type of action we need.
True. So, yes, sir. So that's the kind of action that we need from the government and what we are expecting. So, Mukunda, sir, your closing comments on it. What sort of action are you expecting from the government in this regard?
I very firmly believe that the set of laws we have, which govern the growth and development of Bengaluru in a planned way, are all antiquated. You have to have a more comprehensive set of laws which will take into consideration everything together, and in its effect on the development of Bengaluru, you must have only one set of laws. not overlapping laws like this KTCP Act and then, the BDA Act and then the master plan for the master plan. All these things, they are all a mixture of so many conflicting acts, conflicting and overlapping acts that leads to confusion, and that confusion is taken benefit of by a few influential builders and others who don't care about the overall integrated development of the city. First and foremost is the next 1 year is spent in developing one single statute which clearly states how the city has to be developed in terms of all the parameters that are considered, not merely the setback, the FSCA or anything like that, just that, but in terms of other things for the ability for the city to provide the basic necessities like water, electricity, sewage. One example I'll give you, in Koramangala, there was the BWS NSB had refused to build a sewage treatment plant, saying that there is no place. And even today's BWS NSB says that it is prepared to build 10 more plants, but they should give me the place. Where is the place? If the comprehensive development plan does not actually identify those places and reserve it for STPs in future, especially in outlying areas, then how will you expect how will you achieve 100% underground drainage facility for Bangalore? That's one example. Like that, there are plenty of examples out there. And this piecemeal approach of the Karnataka Town and Country Planning Act only to be adopted, and even the KTCP Act came into existence when Bangalore had hardly a population of 1 or 1.5 million. Today, it's a mega city, one among the top 25 cities in the world, whose population is more than 13.5 million. Yeah, the needs of a city of such magnitude is far different from that of a city of 1 or 1.5 million, obviously.
True.
So that integration should take place, and for that, the need for a comprehensive set of laws which takes into consideration all these things are the first need of the hour. Once it is done, then as a part of that, as an addendum to that, you also introduce a law to set right whatever is not as per that.
Because yes, so I got your point. We are running out of time.
Okay.
You, sir, your closing comments on this. So is it really in terms of the law that we require?
Yeah, the purpose of this particular panel discussion is to not to have illegal constructions within urban areas. When the government is trying to propose regularization of unauthorized properties in urban areas, try to interfere within the framework of while preparing the rules only. I would like to request the democratic setup not to interfere once the rules are finalized. Don't interfere the administration. You try to shape these regulations while drafting. Once it is done, don't try to interfere and then influence the authorities or officers and authorities as well as the urban local bodies. Then what happens? There is no end for this one. You yourself, frame the rules and regulations and pass the act, and then try to interpret it. And result is the present scenario what we are witnessing today in our urban areas. So therefore, I request that a comprehensive approach and then a genius effort to draft these regulations and rules in an effective way, and then see that once it is done, give a freedom to the enforcement machineries so that they can listen to that one. Otherwise, you can punish those people who are not listening to these rules also. And one more thing is, I also want the citizens also, come forward and then react to this kind of things, scenarios in a responsible way, so that we all together can build good urban areas. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Saldana, your closing comments on it.
Well, Priyanka, the my request basically is addressed to two entities. First is the government. With folded hands, I am requesting them, for God's sake, so you are there for a short time. Don't destroy this city. You have brought it to a point almost of no return. I'll just give you one example of what happened recently. After fighting for as long as 15 long years for the poor villagers in the suburbs of Bangalore, the poor villagers who have small plots and who are living and cultivating in the area near the national park. It is a national park, no dispute about it. For 15 years, the stone quarriers lobby and the illegal construction mafia, they had descended on that area and they were terrorizing the villagers. And the group of activists and a group of citizens took it up. They went to the court. Court said that they won't interfere. You go to the government. I'm sorry that this is happening again and again. Green Tribunal, same story. Anyway, after all this fighting for 15 years, they got the central government to agree that there is a small ribbon area around the national park which is called the eco-sensitive zone. They got the government to agree, central government to agree and to implement the order that no construction, no quarrying, no illegal activity will be allowed in that area. Now what happens? The present government comes into power, and the chief minister of this government writes a personal letter to the environment minister at the center, saying that this eco-sensitive zone should be reduced, that it should be eliminated, and that the old situation should be we should go back to the old situation where nobody is going to stop these illegal mafia from. And believe it or not, without consulting anybody, the central government, on the basis of just a letter from the chief minister, they revoke the whole of the eco-sensitive zone rule. Now, what is going to happen? The national park is gone. Now, this is how the governments are going to behave. See, I only beg of the courts to please identify some of the people who are doing these things and make an example of them.
Yes, sir.
Unless that is not going to stop.
Yes, sir. So what points we are looking ahead from the government is a strong policy framework, not just to correct the past deeds, but for a clear future of the city. So that's one thing, and a unified law framework that we are looking forward for, and also to include citizens group in while taking decisions. So this is what we are looking forward from the government in this regard, if at all they decide to regularize the illegal structures. So with this, I conclude this discussion, sir. Thank you so much for being a part of this, gentlemen.
Thank you, Priyanka.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we can go offline.
Please subscribe to Magic Bricks on YouTube and click the bell icon to get new videos.